As we saw at the end of the last movie, InDesign provides a list of every object on each spread in the Layers panel, and you can find that by going up to the Layers panel and clicking on this little twirly triangle next to the layer name. Now, after the last movie, I reverted my document, so now I'm back to the original document, the one from the exercise files folder. This document only has one layer in it, so I'm going to quickly create a new one by holding down Option or Alt and then clicking on the New Layer button in the Layers panel. I'll call this one Text, and then press Return or Enter to click OK. Now I'm going to move all of my text frames up onto that layer. Now the names listed under the layer in the Layers panel give you a little indication about what the thing is. For example, rectangle is going to be one of those unassigned rectangular shapes on my page. Text frames are a little bit different. Text frames listed in the Layers panel actually give you a little snippet of what the story is. First few words of the story usually. Graphics, on the other hand, list out the name of the picture. In other words, the file name on disk. So in this case, I want to place all my text frames on my new layer. So I'm going to select them in the Layers panel. I'll click on the first one, and then hold down the Command key on the Mac or Control key on Windows and select the others. The Command or Control key means select discontiguous items in the list, that is, items that are not next to each other. Now I can drag all of these up into the text layer, but first I have to open the text layer twirly triangle to receive them. I'll drag these selected objects up into the text layer, and I'll drag until I see that little solid line between text and layer 1. When I let go of the mouse button, all of those text objects are moved into the text layer. I also want to move this orange box up onto the text layer, but how do I know which object that is in the Layers panel? To figure that out, I'm simply going to click on it on the page. You'll see that it gets highlighted in the Layers panel here. Now, it might actually be helpful for me to change the name of this from rectangle to some other name, something that I'll recognize later. And you can name individual objects in the Layers panel by clicking on it. I know that sounds a little strange, but it's the standard for renaming things. Click, pause, and then click again, and then it highlights and I can give it a name. I'll call this orange box, and then hit Return or Enter. That way, I'm always going to know what it is. Now, I'll just drag it up onto the text layer. Unfortunately, I dragged a little bit too high, so now it's on top of this text frame. I better drag it down a little bit. There we go. Now, if you're familiar with Adobe Illustrator, you probably know that Illustrator calls each of these things sublayers. I don't actually understand why. To me, they're just objects on a layer. There are a few more things I can do inside the Layers panel that I want to show you. First, if I can't easily select an object on the page for some reason, maybe it's behind other objects and it makes it difficult to select, it's really easy to select it just by clicking on the little box in the right column. So, for example, this selects that text frame right in the middle of the page. Or if I want to select this image, I simply click on it and it selects it in the upper left corner of the page. Also, I can hide objects or lock them on the page just by clicking on the little eyeball next to them. So, for example, if I don't want to see this Studying at Rue text frame, I can simply click that button and it disappears. And that way I don't accidentally click on it, and I can work on objects that are behind it. Click the button again, and it comes back. As you can probably tell, I'm a fanatic for having total control over each and every object on my page. After all, without control, how can you manage your design? This ability to expand the Layers panel will really help you, especially when you're working with complex layouts.